Jupiter at Night is presented live before an internet audience.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Jupiter at Night. My name is Chris.
I'm Alan.
And I'm Jeremy.
Now, tonight's episode's really all about the spies who spy on us.
Scary.
Spying on you
They're
as we speak.
They're watching everywhere.
Google.
Everything. It's weird. And you know what? Our first story, we're gonna start pulling back the veil, exploring all this different stuff
Pulling back
going on.
I think the Iron Curtain.
The Iron Curtain. And our first look, our
London.
first story tonight takes us over to
On the other side of
London.
the water. It's all the same thing, right?
Across the pond over to London, there was a story about an MI6 agent who was now not completely confirmed, but some say stabbed to death in an apartment.
The other article on this says that the autopsy could not determine the cause of death.
Yeah, it's kind of weird when you've got two different news outlets.
If he was stabbed repeatedly,
He got Jason Bourne.
wouldn't that be the cause of death? Usually. I mean, usually.
Okay, now picture it.
Maybe he fell on something sharp.
Picture the
Repeatedly.
scene, right?
Yeah.
It's in
Oh,
London.
God! Oh, God!
It's in London, right?
Yeah.
Small apartment,
Uh-huh.
stabbed to death. Totally, Alan called it. That's totally getting Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This MI6 agent, in other ways, its death follows something that happened in like, what was it, 78, Jeremy?
Yeah. His death harkened back to the notorious 1978 killing of Bulgarian dissident Georgi Markov, who died of blood poisoning after he was stabbed with an umbrella at a London bus stop. The tip of the umbrella was
Stabbed.
said to contain poison.
With an umbrella.
By the penguin.
That's awful.
Yeah.
Okay, so think about this now. I just want to reflect on this for a second before we move on to the next story. There's obviously some sort of outside the law activity that's being conducted by an organization run by the government in some way or some fashion. And they're just around here doing all this different kind of stuff, taking care of each other, cleaning up their own messes theoretically. Then you hear about stuff that comes out, though, you know, and it's always weird, a little weirder for us here in the States when it's from Russia. Like this story that came out today about this transmitter over in Russia.
I find this one fascinating. I'm so glad that
It's
you
so
pointed this
weird.
out to me.
I don't get it.
So it's been running for about 20 years, and in this 20-year period, it was generally, except for with 3 exceptions, transmitting the same exact tone.
Can I go ahead and read this? Because I think this article really nails the point.
Yeah, you bet.
And wrote it very well. So I'll just read this.
Okay.
Over the past year or so, the output of one particular station that broadcasts from near Pavarovo, Russia, increased dramatically. The station has a call sign of UVB76, but is known as The Buzzer by its listeners because of a short, monotonous buzz tone that it normally plays 21 to 34 times per minute. It's only deviated from that signal 3 times previously, briefly in 97, 2002, and 2006.
That's interesting.
That much on its own I find fascinating.
Yeah.
It's weird.
And what it transmits is really weird, too.
In early August, a garbled recording of voices speaking Russian was heard by listeners. A few days later, on the 23rd of August at about 1:35, a clear voice read aloud the following message. I'm not going to read the full message, but it was basically a whole bunch of codes and random numbers and names and letters.
Actually, in the article we will link you to in the Jupiter Night show notes, that links to a YouTube recording of it.
Yeah.
Of the transmission. It sounds
And
very
then it
weird.
returned.
It actually sounds like it's played in reverse, which is something Alan pointed out. That when you listen to it on YouTube, it sounds like something in reverse. Really
And
weird.
somebody else
Yeah.
pointed out that you can hear like doors opening and closing and papers shuffling.
There's
in the
been some
background.
suggestions that maybe somebody's in there working and there's an open mic. But then what was said that was heard over and what interrupted that normal tone was so precise and so exact that it doesn't seem like it could be something just overheard.
Just reading this article sounds like a real life lost story.
It's weird,
something
yeah.
like
It
that.
reminds me of Fallout. Finding one of those weird broadcast stations.
Right,
that
so if we
you
go
don't
here
know.
and then jump down the cliff
Yeah.
behind it, we can find a bobblehead in a sewer? Is
Either that or an alien spacecraft.
Well,
right.
So get this, guys. There's been some early attempts at decoding the message that was transmitted, and there's a couple of different suggestions as to what this message might be. Now, these are just early decodings, and I think these might actually been people that speak English translating from Russian. But some are suggesting that it is coordinates where Russia might be doing some missile testing, and then other people are saying that it could be some coordinates for an oil field of some strategic importance. But it's also been suggested this might have been a something like what they call it towards the term in here is something like a dead man's switch, probably even for a possible Russia Cold War.
Dead hand fall deadly system.
Yeah, that's what they call it.
ICBM launches if a nuclear strike from the United States was detected.
Yeah.
No, that can't be it.
So a signal that if that signal were to terminate and weren't followed by the all clear code.
It is just like Lost. When the bells go off, you have to type in the code or
Yeah.
else all the hell breaks
And
loose.
if you don't transmit the all clear code, there could theoretically have been some sort of automated system to launch weapons in the Cold War. That's one idea, because I guess there's been, they've uncovered some situations where the Russian government was doing that, so that way if the U.S. did attack and managed to take them out before they had a chance to order the attack, at least they'd still have their victory, or at least their revenge.
I think the scariest part of all this is that the Russian government has basically fallen since those times.
Yeah.
So
And
all
now
of
this
this
equipment's just
extra
there.
infrastructure might still be out there, might still be active.
Or it's now the new Russian government's in place can now use it for whatever they want. Now,
If they're using it, thumbs up. If they're not and just letting it go neglected and auto-launch nuclear missiles to random coordinates,
I would hope they took care of that.
Down.
I think, definitely a thumbs down. Yeah, that's for sure.
Do not want.
Now, while we're talking about spy gadgets, framing the conversation again, where these people are really just around us everywhere. I mean, this stuff is really happening. It's a interesting thing, and to support that effort on their part, there's some interesting technology that was recently featured on Discovery.com, the Discovery Channel. Mm-hmm. They showed some great spy gadgets, including a lipstick pistol, and they don't actually know if it was ever used, but it was a 4.5 millimeter single shot weapon, presumably taken from a KGB agent in the mid-1960s.
But how loud would that thing be?
Maybe, I don't know.
It doesn't have any silencer.
It might be more about just getting in there with the weapon, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess that would make.
I'm
Plus,
not sure.
you probably have to fire it by pushing on the bottom, and it probably powder burn and blister your hand and everything.
Now check this thing out from the 1970s. This was a remote controlled camera, and the lens was like in a button.
Nice.
And so then the trigger would go in your pocket, and the secret agent could just walk around.
I find it interesting that they publish these now, because we obviously have better spy gear by now.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean this was from the 70s.
How much do you think that spies are even still around though?
Oh, there was an article that came out, I think actually today or yesterday, that said that there's an estimate as many as up to, getting the number wrong, but I want to say it was 500 active Russian agents in London.
In London.
And then we just when we started, Jupiter at Night, if you recall, you and I were just talking about it pre-show.
Yeah, but that was a Russian spy that was
in the
in
US.
here. But then she was like, I didn't even do anything.
It was a group of spies.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't even do anything.
Dude,
They
there
were
are
just here.
spies
That doesn't mean
spying
that they're
on
not
us.
spies.
And now we must spy on them via the power of the internet. That's all I'm saying.
All right, that's
Yeah,
fair.
that is fair. I mean, there's some really interesting devices, including, I think, Jeremy, we just mentioned this one, a knife umbrella.
Nice.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Yep. So you can check those out in the show notes if you'd like to see some more, including...
Go to the last one, because I find it hilarious.
Oh, you're right. There is a really cool one that was used to spy right on the Russians in the Cold War, and it was right in their front yard, and they finally found it. So there's a link to that in the show notes. But check this one out. You know what that is?
Nice.
Dookie.
Dog Do Transmitter. Yep, this is... Jeremy, read this for us. This is just awesome.
Oh, I'll have to pull it up.
All right,
here.
well, while you pull it up, I'll tell people about it.
All right, do it.
So this is actually like a fake, hollowed out piece of poop that they would use to stick like little bugs in and monitors and sensors and stuff, and then transmit.
So dew tends to be left alone, which is why beacons disguised as tiger excrement were used to mark targets in Vietnam. One of the risks, obviously, is that such a device would be thrown away or discovered by someone accidentally. There's a quote in here that says, "Accidents happened all the time. That's one of the challenges of being a spy or case officer." I can also see, like, if somebody gave them a tip that, hey, one of the lumps of dew in your front yard is a bug, and then they don't know which one.
Oh.
That's
this game
important.
Sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's funny because that's a practical. It's practical.
Oh, no, it makes sense. It makes perfectly good sense.
Does it make you want to check your poo when you find it in the yard?
Not at all.
Oh.
I shovel it up every time.
What?
I guess if one feels hollow, maybe I'll give it another poke with the shovel. I don't know.
I guess one last funny gadget. I mean, this is just hilarious before we jump away, is the pigeon cam. You see this thing?
That seems like something out of a video game.
Yeah.
I know. 1950s, they had a 95% success rate when they had properly trained pigeons, and they would send them where they wanted them to take pictures.
That is awesome.
Duly decorated with medals of honor for their services.
The pigeons were even
Nice.
decorated.
Flying rats.
Isn't that something? So even the birds have been spying on us since the 50s.
Well, dude, Alfred Hitchcock knew that all along, right?
Now, I'm going to skip
They're
over
evil.
the bird uprising.
Are you guys okay if we skip over this Pentagon story?
Yep.
It's a little weak.
I don't know. It's kind of fun.
All right. Well,
Skim it quick.
all right. So there's this story that the Pentagon essentially got hacked through a USB
Well, let's
thumb
just
drive.
talk about the two things that we found.
Okay, go
One
ahead.
story that I discovered said that this guy was basically at a meeting or something. They were giving out free thumb drives. And he was like, yeah, cool, got a free thumb drive. Then he went back to his office at a top secret level of the Pentagon and plugged the thumb drive into his work computer. Dumbass.
You're not
Oh, my
supposed to do
goodness.
that.
No.
Even from the TV I've seen, you're not supposed to do that.
Right.
So, but apparently that might not be. You heard that it was.
Well,
something
so then
else.
I heard that they brought in a consultant to do the repairs because I guess it got pretty messed up,
Mm-hmm.
and it might have even infected a couple of other computers in the office. So they brought in these
at the office,
consultants
at the Pentagon.
at the Pentagon office. They brought in these consultants to work on it, and one of the journalists that ran the story contacted the consulting company to get their comment on it.
Mm-hmm.
And according to this journalist, he says that the consulting company said that when they looked at it, said, best we could tell, it wasn't an infection from a USB drive. I would say the user of the computer just tried to reach out and touch someone, if you know what I mean. Bump. So then they said, well, why would the Pentagon be spinning this as if they got infected by a USB thumb drive store? And he said, well, if I understood kind of what I overheard, things going on there, that maybe the Pentagon's trying to get some sort of funding approved to improve
or
their
extra security measures
something,
or something.
Yeah. So you always got to take this kind of
It's
stuff with
all
a grain
about
of
the
salt.
almighty dollar.
But there was a pretty big hack that came through a malware attack, so it's totally possible.
Mm-hmm.
In a China, and I think a Chinese government or there was some government office that got hacked through malware.
I did hear.
It was a targeted attack. Yeah.
I
Now,
don't remember where it was either.
shifting from actual spies, like the ones that are on the MI6 payroll and the Pentagon and
The ones
things
with
like
last
that.
names like Bond.
The cool ones.
Yeah, to devices that we purchase ourselves that could potentially be turned into tools to spy on us themselves, like without us even really realizing it. Now it's a little freaky, but
There's one right there.
there's been this story that came out that Steve Jobs is watching you, and that Apple is seeking to patent the ability to monitor a device so keenly.
Sidebar. Steve Jobs doesn't have 100% call on every single
know.
last thing that Apple does.
I really
find
hate-
articles titled like this.
I know that
So inflammatory. I'm surprised they don't get sued for libel.
Steve Jobs is personally watching you. I
Right.
don't think so. I mean, give me a break.
Got you to read it.
Now, the patent covers the ability to take pictures of the user's face without a flash or any noise or any indication that the picture is being taken. The current user would not even know he's being photographed. The system can
Things like
record the
that can.
voice during a cell phone call. The system can determine your unique heartbeat signature, whatever that is. And it can also monitor your internet activity, photographs of your surrounding area, all of these different things to determine if you're truly who you say you are. And then depending on the results that it finds, it can either take action in the device or they could contact the authorities.
Dude, all I know is because of stuff like that, that's why if I get the Connect on the 360 or, Connect, not at all anymore, I'm going to cover that thing when I'm not using it. That camera is getting covered with like a blanket or something. It's not staying open because that stuff freaks
That's
me
true.
out.
And you guys heard about that story about the school district who had software on their laptops
that's
that took
messed
pictures.
up.
Yeah.
Standard issue laptops they gave to every student. And
Now-
they had a back door you could turn on the webcam with.
Whenever you wanted to.
I just want to take a rational step back here. First of all, when it comes to our location data, I think Apple has been one of the best in protecting that out of all of the providers. Apple has made direct changes to their EULA and has kicked ad agencies out of the iTunes marketplace because they were collecting too much personal data. Now, that said, Apple does collect data themselves, and that bothers the crap out of me. Now, these things that
A lot of people.
These things that they're monitoring, though, could simply be conditions that the user could ask for, so that way if their phone is stolen, it could be disabled.
Right.
Apple
Yeah.
already offers a locate my iPhone and locate my iPad and the ability to remote wipe them if they get stolen. This could be an augmentation to that system,
Right.
but it could also be something more sinister.
Until we actually know what they're trying to do with this, I don't think that anybody should be jumping to conclusions.
No.
I mean, we all know that Apple's a little evil, but
Yeah.
so is every other big corporation out there.
Yeah. And
So-
really, so far, we haven't seen a device. I don't think that would. I mean, even with the phones we have now, it would seem like the amount of resources and processing you need to analyze all this data and not let the user know you're doing it, so run it in the background. It seems like that would take a lot of CPU and horsepower.
And you would end up knowing that it was there.
Yeah.
You'd be like, why is my phone running like crap?
Now that said, like you
I
have
say that all the time.
I was gonna say,
You own a droid.
You have a droid, and I think they know your location.
Yeah, as far as the location and stuff like that, I just don't like the picture taking and like that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. Because I basically say, like, hey, track my location. Tell me what the weather's like. So whenever I pop up my phone,
You get
there's
the
the
weather.
weather.
Yeah.
And so if I'm doing that, they can get me for other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
Now, before we sign off, you guys, this doesn't really fit with today's show. We couldn't jam it in, but there was an article that ran of just the most amazing private jet.
Let me draw a link. Look at these pictures and imagine James Bond being talked to by a supervillain.
Absolutely, totally a
why
spy
is it to be
plane.
a supervillain?
Well, he's not going to get briefed on
look
this.
how
Because it's got naked women on the wall.
yeah, we
that's
probably
why.
shouldn't show
So
that.
that means that James Bond is here to get laid.
That's only some of the pictures too. I mean, this is like
I'm trying to find the rest of
It's
them.
like a castle in the sky. It's unbelievable. Now, what's
it's a
from an
private
African-
jet.
Yeah. We'll put it in the show notes. You guys can head over to Jupiter Broadcasting, look for this episode, and then you'll see
I'm having no luck.
the pictures of that.
Screw it.
It's pretty swanky.
It's very swanky. All right, everyone. Well, I think that just about wraps up tonight's episode of Jupiter at Night. We hope you enjoyed this very spy edition. And we should mention Jupiter at Night is live Monday through Thursday.
And you don't have to be sneaky to watch it.
No, you don't. You could be, but why would you be? And
There's
that's
no reason to be.
9 p.m. Pacific. And then, hey, you know what? If you enjoy Jupiter at Night, do us a favor. Let somebody else know about it. Tweet it, blog it, email it.
Slip some anonymous Post-it notes in their pocket.
Stick it on a pigeon. I hear they have a great success rate. Something like that.
Post it around your school.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe spray it on a wall.
Don't do
no,
that.
Oh, don't do that.
Don't do that.
do that.
Don't-
do that.
Don't do that.
Do that.
Wait.
Don't do that.
Okay, everyone. Well, thanks so much for watching tonight's episode of Jupiter at Night, and we hope to see you tomorrow night.